Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 95. We're getting near the triple digits. You know what that means. It is February 24th, 2021. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside producer extraordinaire with the rabbit ears, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Hi. Nice to be on your show again.
That is Mr. Alan Kessler. And Terrence Chan, T in the hinterlands in British Columbia.
I am in the hinterlands. Ross is at Daniel's house, and Daniel has entered a time machine. This is quite the week.
Daniel, welcome to the podcast again, sir. And you are surrounded by how many of those guys are alive?
So it's interesting you ask, because for my birthday this year, Brian Balsbog got me a signed version of this picture, which is sitting over there, and he got all the living members, which is Jack Binion, Duel Brunson. Was there a third? I think that might be it now. Yeah. But it's pretty cool because there's like on that picture, there's like you can't really see the bottom of it, but it'll say who's who. And, there's a few that are unknown, and they're typically, the guys that may have been on the gangster side. I wanted to say one other thing too. I got wine, y'all, because I'm celebrating something. Okay.
Ooh.
I like, Terrence understands this stuff. You've done bets on weight and all this kind of stuff. So you've been up and down like a yo-yo. So I've been concentrating on, I did a big cut for a long time. And for 7 months, I've been bulking. And the goal was to gain like 2.5 to 3 pounds a month. And I've done that. So I'm back to 160. And on March 1st, we're going to do like a 4-week cut, try to get ripped up for for me also, but also the wife. So celebrating with a little bit of wine after. I don't need my brain cells anymore because I just finished. I told you I was going to ramble at the beginning. So just bear with me for a second. I just finished, obviously, the Doug Polk match. And then after that was this intense, absolutely brilliant Pog Champs where I was playing chess and I ended up losing to a 16-year-old kid named Benji Fishy, who's a Fortnite player. And I wanted to say one thing. This format is great. I want to get into this later when we talk about poker because I think it's a great idea. And I've actually already been working on making this happen for poker. But I'm in this thing with 16 celebrities, if you will. I recognize Logic the Rapper. I've heard of him. I recognize Rainn Wilson, Dwight from The Office. And then there's 13 other people. Pokimani, Benji Fishy, XQC, Sardoche, Rubius. I never heard any of these people, right? What's amazing to me is that these people I never heard of in this world are infinitely more I was the least famous person of the 16 when you think of like sheer numbers, right? Like these people, they have 80 million followers in some cases. 80 million watching them play video games. It's amazing. It was really interesting to dive into that world. And at first when they asked me, I'm like, I don't know, am I too big time for this? It's part of my thought. I'm like, hell no. You are lucky to be involved. It's all these young kids. And then of course, me and Rainn Wilson are the old guys, the boomers. This kid named Ludwig, he's on his stream calling me a boomer. I'm like, bro, Generation X, no boomer here, but really fascinating look. And I wanted to share later, if we get a chance, some of what I learned about what they did so well with this Pog Champs. And I've already talked to people.
Let's set it up. So you came out of the Doug Polk match and threw yourself into chess. Mm-hmm. You've been streaming it. You're the Pogs. I don't know what the Pog is. What's the Pog Championships? Fill us in and give us the whole background.
So the Pog Champs is essentially a charity event where 16 famous streamers, 6 famous-ish people, this is the 3rd edition of it, are faced off in 16 players, like I said, 4 groups of 4, all seeded. I was the number 2 seed in my group based on my rating in chess, and they do a lot of background. They don't want people that are too good because then it would be silly. Like Masiako or whatever that actor from The Heroes and stuff, the Asian guy, he's like too good. And there's some others that were too good. So they want people in the rating range of like no higher than 1,300 really. So you had some beginners, you had some intermediate, but no like superstars, right? So what they do is you play group play, and the top 2 advance in the championship bracket. The bottom 2 go to a consolation bracket. So there's always something to play for. And the way that it works is you play 1 game as white, 1 game as black. If you win both, you've won. If you're tied, you play an Armageddon match, a third round sudden death. And then so what happened with me is I won my first 2 matches against Rubius and Pokimani. Well, I didn't know this girl. She's Canadian, whatever. And she's like uber famous. Like everyone knows who Pokimani is. Come on, bro. How do you not know?
Except the boomers. The boomers don't know.
We didn't know nothing. So I won my first 2 matches that I was supposed to win against Rubius, who's a Spanish streamer who has 40 million subscribers. 40 million. We think poker's big? This is insane.
So were they ranked higher than you?
No, those two I beat were like ranked lower. And then XQC, who had a lower ELO than I did, which is like a chess rating, was considered the favorite in the group. And I just was like, I woke up that day like brain farted. I couldn't play. And I lost both games to him. So I was like determined to play really well against Benji Fishy. You guys remember Dave Otteson?
Yeah.
Dave Otteson.
He's been my friend for over 15 years.
Yeah. So thank you, Dave, so much, because Dave gave me some real prep, because there's so much of these tournaments that like remind me of poker in terms of preparation, where he went into the chess.com website. He gave me all of like Benji's details and what he would do and what is the best winning possession to play against him. Right. So Dave gives me like the first 10 moves that he thinks Benji's going to do against me. Okay. And he gives me the situation that will win 56% of the time. He does every single one to a T. And I'm like, sweet, this is good. Long story short, I played Benji the first match. I beat him. The second match, after Dave's beautiful prep work that he did for me, I was ahead. I was doing good. And then I blundered, made a mistake. I moved the wrong piece, let the guy take my queen. So we go to the rubber match. And in this rubber match, it's a 5-minute game where, you don't get any increments in time, where here's how it works. If you run out of time first, you just lose. You just lose. It doesn't matter how bad the position is. So somewhere in my head, I thought there was increments or whatever. And I didn't realize I was in a losing position. What I should have done was just move instantly. Whatever. Just move anywhere.
You got to pre-move.
Just move. Boom, 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 move, right? I did. Anyway, he had the right position, but like I lose the third match with 1.2. He had 1.2 seconds left on his clock. So if I would have moved 2 seconds earlier, I would have advanced. But Benji Fishy, this Fortnite player, 16-year-old kid, he beat me. And
you're playing against professional video game players. Like these guys click mouses real fast for a living. Like we click mouses when we play online poker, but these guys are professional video game players. If there's anything they do, it's use a gaming mouse really well. Which helps
him in the normal game. Because the normal game, and this, I'm telling you, I'm going to make this happen for poker. I promise. What they do is they have increments, right? So let's say, for example, you get a 10-minute clock. They take 3 minutes to make a decision early. Like in the middle stages, they're tanking like forever, right? Because they know when they get down to like 30 seconds, they can insta move really fast. And with the way increments work is this: you start with a 10-minute clock. After your move, 5 seconds are added to your time bank. So let's say you have 30 seconds left. You're like, oh, I'm dead, right? No, because if you move instantly, now you have 35. Now you have 40. Now you have 40, 45. So once they get to that point, they can move very, very fast. I noticed that with XQC, who was a super gamer guy. Like they're gonna be way better than me at that.
That's a great idea for poker. We never even thought of that. When we talk about clocks and shot clocks and nobody ever thinks to reward the player for here's
what I'm going to create. I'm literally already in the works of making this happen. And I'm not sure if we're going to go to the celebrity angle or top pro angle, but I want to create 16 player bracket, same as PogChamps, 4 groups of 4, heads up poker. Okay. Each player for poker is going to get, let's say, for example, a 3-minute, because with poker, you can make a lot of decisions instantly. Everyone's going to have a 3-minute time bank. When you fold, you get 5 seconds added. So you get your cards, you look at them, you fold. Now you got 305. Okay. So you'll end up having a decent amount of time. We'll have one referee, or if you can do it online, it's very, very easy logistically. If we're going to do it live, we'd need a referee with an iPad who just has a chess clock iPad. It goes boom, boom, boom. So that way when the dealer's, shuffling the cards and stuff like that, there's no issue. What'll be great is this. This is the kicker. This is what makes it really cool. If you run out of time, you lose. It doesn't matter if you have 180,000, the guy had 20,000. If you cannot act within your time bank, you lose the match. Okay. Period. That shouldn't happen. What does this do, right? This makes everybody who waits 10 seconds when they know what they're doing, they're hurting themselves. So what ends up happening is time becomes a commodity. You can win the game by winning the game, but you can also win the game if your opponent is wasting time or whatever else like that. Now, I want to create tournaments like this too, but with some caveats and different things. But I think this format, I was enthralled by it. It's still going on. If you want to check it out on chess.com/TV or twitch.tv, and the commentators teach and all this kind of stuff, I would love to make this format happen for poker. Maybe what we do is, and I think this would be really great, get these Pokemani and XQC and all these people I never heard of, have them play in the tournament with coaches. I coach Pokemani or whoever, and everyone, they play amongst themselves and they stream it live. Because while I was involved in the PogChamps, They have their main Twitch stream or their chess.com/TV stream, but the players themselves were streaming to their audience. So it's a whole added bonus where you can hear my decision process, my thinking in real time. Brilliant idea. The time pressure aspect, like it was such an exciting match, not because it was exciting because like anything can happen because of the time constraint. You know, it was really, really cool. So I just want to thank the people at chess.com first and foremost for, you know, inviting me to play. Cause you know, I thought I'm like some big shot, you know, you're gonna get Daniel Negreanu, big shot. I'm like, fucking none of these people know who I am. You know, one guy, Rubius, he tweeted out, you know, he's like, yeah, I have a match against some professional poker player. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, these people are like 22 and they use words like Sag. You know what that means?
No.
Sag?
No.
Ross, you're the youngest guy here.
Sagittarius.
No, man, no. When you're Sag, like, oh, I'm so Sag right now. You're like sad and angry at the same time.
Oh.
Shit you didn't know, right? This is I finally felt old. I have not felt old in poker ever. Doing this thing with these people, I felt like old man DNegs.
Well, I mean, majority of the poker players you meet are 21 or older, so they're old hat compared to these guys.
It's true.
I do enjoy
it.
You feel old in a heartbeat. That's the secret to feeling old.
Yeah.
You know how I stay young? Sorry, I'm last bit of my rant, and then we can have the show. I stay young by always having some sort of a challenge. Obviously, I spent months working on heads up poker against, you know, Doug, and you know, I lost, but such is life. I moved on immediately. New chapter, chess. Not playing for any money, but I spent the same amount of time and grind working on my chess game. Now that that's over, what did I do today? I watched High Stakes Duel with Phil Hellmuth and Antonio Esfandiari because I know that I'm playing Phil Hellmuth, and oh boy, did I learn some stuff. Not some new stuff that I didn't know about Phil, but this is kind of like everyone has things that they have joy from. Some it's jumping out of an airplane, bungee jumping. For me, no, I don't need none of that shit. It just seems dumb to me, like to take I just don't have any interest in those risks. But these kind of challenges, I really enjoy it. And the wine's kicking in, as you can tell. So
David Audison's going to be hitting you up every time the Oilers hit Vegas after COVID.
Right.
Man, Dave was so great. Like, he's really a great guy. I worked with him at Stars for many, many years in the past. And like, he's so like willing to give me time and energy to like really prepare me. And oh my God, was he right. And I screwed up. It wasn't his fault. The reason I didn't win, 100% not Dave. That's just me. You know, I'm not that good at chess. I did get a lot better though.
So what spurred the love of chess? Have you played it in the past? What
Queen's Gambit.
I actually started playing chess around 2018. And the reason I did was because I got addicted to Hearthstone big time. Hearthstone is another video game, card game kind of thing. And I was playing way too much. And I'm like, I need to quit. Okay. So I quit completely for a while. And then I'm like, my brain needs a game. So I'm like, let me just start playing a little chess here and there. Played it on chess.com, pretty cool app. Can play against other people, you know, from all over the world and stuff. So I dabbled. I didn't really play much. And they noticed, you know, I mentioned chess here and there. And then, you know, Grandmaster Hikaru, who's like big time streamer and stuff, and Gotham Chess or whatever, reached out to me and said, you know, we'd like you to be part of this PogChamps thing. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, cool. I'll just, you know, I'll play some chess for charity. But then I realized, like, no, this is a real, like, people take this very, very seriously. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to look like an asshole. Like, I was really embarrassed how I did against XQC, who's a French Canadian, who's like, you know, again, big time gaming, whatever streamer. And I played so poorly against him that it was like crazy because it's not about the money. Like, I was never embarrassed playing against Doug for millions of dollars, even though I lost. I never felt embarrassed because I'm like, listen, I did what I did. I didn't feel like I ran so well, such is life. But when I lost here in this other, I'm like hearing the commentators say, ooh, yeah, he should have moved his queen, but he didn't see it. I'm like, how stupid are you, Daniel? Like, you just embarrass yourself. And okay, the streams, they get 100,000+ viewers live. So, you know, you embarrass yourself.
Right. If you're watching chess, you have perfect information. You can see every single move. When people are watching, you know, other than your coaches and you, when people are watching you and Doug play, you don't see all the, you know, bunch of the hands, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So people can assume, oh man, you should have called him. Like, you don't even know what I had. But in chess, you blunder. Like, I don't know if people understand this, whatever, but like, I was doing good and he checked me with his queen. Okay. And I could move my king to a safe spot. I could move one rook up here, or I can move one rook right next to it to block it. Right. If I move this rook, no problem. If I move the king, No problem. If I move this one to you, if I use this rook to do it, I've just blundered. So that's the one I did. I just did not see it, and then he was able to move a piece up and do a double attack. They call it the Botez attack. Alexandra Botez. Basically, a Botez gambit is when you just give away your queen like an idiot. So that's what I did. And but I tell you what, it's really, really fun. And I really learned a lot about what's possible for poker if we do things right. And I do see a future where, here's the thing. If you had unlimited time to make a chess move, it would completely destroy chess. Destroy it, right? If you could, let's say, Terrence, you could sit there for a week, just sit over the board and look at the board and not make your move, right? Chess figured out a solution, an absolute pure solution, which is a chess clock, which completely eliminates the issue. You can, manipulate the time. We've created in poker somewhat of a defense, which is the shot clock, in the high stakes ones, which give people 30 seconds and people always have the right to call the clock. But a chess clock is where it's at. The only reason it hasn't happened in poker yet is because logistically, we haven't figured out how to do it, or people don't understand why. Because with the shot clock, what ended up happening was, when Martin Cabral under the gun, he's like, all right, he's got 30 seconds, right? He's got 7-deuce offsuit, just looks at it for 30 seconds. Okay. No, there's no punishment for that. If you use a chess clock, he had 10 minutes, he wasted 30. Now he has 9:30. So when he does that, he hurts himself. That's what we need to move towards. And I'm going to be at the forefront of making that happen. I promise.
We in our little social group, our COVID social group, we've played Codename. Have you ever any of you guys played Codenames? We play Codenames with a chess clock. It's a fun party game, but chess clocks are absolutely great because anytime you put people under time pressure, fun things happen. I've never really been a chess fan, but I have watched a lot of rapid chess over the last little while, like Greg Shahadi, a very old school poker pro, who's also like a extremely high rated chess player. Obviously Jen's brother was playing in a rapid tournament last week. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I don't really know what's going on. I listen to the commentators. They tell me what to think. They tell me when somebody does something bad. They tell me when somebody does something good, but I'm excited. Like the last minute or so of a rapid game, like a blitz game or a bullet game, super exciting stuff. Like Daniel says, who's going to flag with like 1.6 seconds left?
Well, think about it in poker, right? So let's say, for example, you're behind in the match. You're up against, Terrence is against Adam. Adam has a 2-1 chip lead, right? But Terrence, you notice that his clock is kind of like on the lower side, right?
Yeah.
So now, like on turns in river, you just start putting him in brutal spots.
Yep.
Where you just like overbet bomb. And now Adam's like, oh no, what do I do here?
Fold.
Tick tock, right? So now you can apply this kind of extra pressure to him. And you make a whole bunch in chess, you make a lot of blunders. So when I had 3 seconds left, Benji like literally gave me his queen. But I'm already like, just move. I could have took his queen. Wouldn't have mattered. I'd still lose. But like, when you know that you can use time as a commodity, as a viewer, you're watching this stuff in real time and you're like, oh my God. If he doesn't move fast, he's going to lose. It is riveting stuff. And another thing I learned too is this. A chess grandmaster, he sort of poo-pooed, and Magnus Carlsen, who's the best chess player in the world, kind of had ambiguous take on it, but he was fine with it. This is very similar, like elitist attitude in chess, where like this guy as a GM, he's like, this is terrible that they're showing terrible chess and they're taking up spots from like real pros, right? Like, bro, you got 16 streamers who are like going to just promote the game at a level that's relatable to everybody. Because most people who play chess make these dumb kind of blunders, right? They don't play at the super high level, like in poker at the super high rollerball level. You got these guys who play like, pretty perfect poker, but sometimes it's interesting to go, oh my God, look what Shannon Elizabeth's going to do. She's going to check back freaking top full against quads. Oh no, what a blunder, right? But that's interesting. It's exciting because anything can happen at any moment. And so, just like there's so many parallels. And like I said, I learned a lot about what we can do to really promote the game of poker.
Well, what's interesting in there is really smart people without vision, right? Like, to be one of the best chess players in the world and not to understand that having, these people with huge followings drive people to the game and they can't see through the forest.
Well, chess does fall into the group of a little bit. They do suffer a little bit at the highest levels, a little bit of an elitist problem, right? Like, that's a lot of the streamers were embarrassed to stream because then chess snobs will come in and make fun of them, right? For not being good. We have the same problem in poker where somebody makes a bad play and we all mock them and laugh at them, right? It's not the way to go. You want to expand. You want to build your audience, then you got to just like welcome this stuff. Like, I mean, it was Shannon Elizabeth, right? With the quads. Was
Jennifer
it?
Tilly.
Oh, Jennifer
Tilly, pardon me. Jennifer. But like for her, like think about it. She's a big time actress, Hollywood star. Like that's an incredibly embarrassing moment, right? Because it's like, there's no logic behind that, right? If we mock her, make fun of her or whatever, like we lose out an opportunity to promote the game. Obviously we can have our shits
and she wrote about this, how that she stopped playing poker for quite a while because of like, she would go, you wouldn't think, oh, she's a big time Hollywood star, what have you. You wouldn't think she's the kind of person who's going to go on 2+2 and read all the trolls that say like obnoxious things about her. But no, she was very open and she candid about this, and she wrote about this and said, yeah, like that hurt, like it sucked to feel like that, and people calling me like dumb and saying stupid things. And so she actually like went away from poker for a very long time, and never really fully came back. Really, you remember she won like the ladies championship, and she was like on TV like every other week.
And she's like such a great asset to TV poker because she's talkative, friendly, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a huge loss when we do stuff like that. So we have to be careful as a community when, like we can't mock and laugh at like, I mean, let's say, for example, when we had that show when Phil Gordon hosted, like whatever it was, poker, what was it called?
Celebrity Poker Showdown.
Celebrity Poker Show, right? Like poker community mocked and laughed at how dumb all these people are, right? Like you need to like understand that this is a vehicle to get more people into the game. And like, so what? They're not good at that. They're like, they're good at things in life that you're not good at. So like, I don't know. It's just stupid to mock for, it's when people, step out, but it's really a thing, as you mentioned with Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, it is interesting. This is only slightly related, but it is interesting to me that you've embraced chess, sort of as this sort of novice intermediate level player. Because for me, one of the reasons that, and it's a negative thing about myself that I don't like is that like, I've always been sort of interested in chess, but I've never studied it because I would always think like, oh, I can't be like elite. I can't be like one of the best in the world. I can't be top even 1,000 in the world. Certainly at my age, I can probably be one of the top like 10,000 in the world. And so like, why even try? And that's like a terrible attitude to have. What's impressive about you, I mean, you've come off of this thing with Doug where, you lost $1 million and everybody was watching you and people were making fun of you. You didn't give a shit. And then you just jumped into this chess thing, which is another opportunity for a completely new set of people to make fun of you about how bad you suck.
This is where you want to get to in life, where you get to like give zero shits about what people think, and I thought I believed that was true about me when I was younger, but it wasn't. Like not until like I've got my life settled now. I've got the wife that I've always wanted in the dream life that I, thought of as a teenager, that I can get to the point where like I really don't give a shit. I mean, I genuinely can say that. Like I can, open the Doug thing was like 3 months long. That chapter is completely closed to me. Like it's gone. It's like, and the fact that I was playing that for high stakes, my intensity level for that versus this charity event where I'm just playing for the One Drop Foundation was no less intense.
Yeah.
None. I mean, I just love to compete. It's so much fun. But you're right. Like chess too. One thing, if you haven't played chess, such a fascinating game. There's so much to learn. And it's like, even if you suck, like just getting better and seeing new things, it's really fun. And tournament chess, I didn't realize this because I play like on chess.com and I use some funky gambits. And for those that don't know chess, a funky gambit is basically like an unorthodox way to play where if your opponents have never seen it before, they're like, they make a big mistake and you smack them and you win real easy, right? The problem with those kind of plays is when your opponents expect it, and they know it's coming and they prepare for it, they don't, not only they don't work, they lose for you. Okay. So in my first match, I played against Pokemani. I used what's called the England Gambit with black. Okay. Very unique idea where you give away a pawn and whatever. However, if your opponent knows what to do against it, you've just made a horrible opening. So it's not considered a good opening. So just there's so many fascinating aspects to the game, and there is so many to poker as well. But I wonder sometimes if we actually show poker in the light that it could be. And I think these formats, one of my favorite poker shows ever was a show created by Maury Escandani years ago, and I wasn't even in it. It's called the Poker Superstars, where it was like, you played in the heat, you got points. It was a points thing. We had to advance, and like going into the last heat, Gus Hansen at a like 8-handed table, to advance, he had to come first. Okay. but there were like 3 or 4 players who just needed to move up 1 spot or 2 spots to guarantee their advancement, right? So the dynamic was super cool because Gus just literally went all in every single hand because he knew these people could not call. Like, it's actually theoretically a mistake for some of them to call with aces. So it was just a cool aspect, you know, in the preliminary round, like the World Junior Championships, which I know we're all hockey fans, right? The preliminary stuff where you got to, you know, jockey for position. Who do you play? Like something like this for poker, where we spend 2 weeks, 2 to 3 matches a day, 6 to 8 hours of live streams. This is going to be a big winner. And I promise you, this is going to happen. And it's going to happen thanks to chess teaching me this thing. And I'm going to bring it to poker.
You know, what's super interesting is, you know, we've been talking about shot clocks, speeding up the game for years and years and years. And we never really considered it as a strategy shift and a feature to the game, rather than, you know, trying to alter the people who are playing slow for, you know, we want to keep the recreational player involved and we don't want to piss them off and they don't have all day to play. We didn't even consider, or at least I didn't, I don't know, I ever remember talking about it, that this could make the game even more fun.
Absolutely.
You know?
Because here's the thing, right? When you think of game theory optimal play, right? GTO style play, the process, and Jason Kuhn wrote a really great piece on this in terms of like, what do you think about, right? You think about 40 different variables, let's say, okay? That takes 20, 30, and for the quickest brain, takes 20, 30 seconds to go through the checklist of, you know, how many combos does he have of value? How many combos of bluffs? What are, you know, where am I in my range? All this kind of stuff takes a long time, right? If you eliminate some of that, you have a little bit more old school poker, a little bit of speed poker. It creates a little bit more excitement, more mistakes for sure, you know, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, just being involved in this thing and seeing what's possible, I'm really looking forward to the idea. Because here's what you said. One other thing I wanted to add is this. When people tank and use all the time, they're playing within the rules. You cannot condemn. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? So it's not their fault. And I totally get that. Like Cocky T, you know, he very eloquently said to me, he's like, I think it's in my best interest to tank from hand number 1. Okay. And I have mouths to feed. And I'm doing this for a living, so I'm going to do what's within the rules. You can never blame somebody really for doing that. You can expect them to play within an etiquette of, like, you know, respect for the game, but bullshit. Listen, it's a game for money. So set the rules in such a way where that kind of, you know, behavior is punished, if you will, or it's a different format. I'm not suggesting that we, you know, eliminate all tournament poker as it is, but adding this new variant, I think, is going to be very attractive to a wide variety of players who just don't want to sit there and wait like 30 seconds for a guy to act.
All right, let's move on to some poker stuff. First off, RIP Larry Flint, who passed away. And the reason why this is a bit of a poker story is Larry obviously played the game at the Hustler Casino. He had I believe it was a 1,000, 2,000 stud, 7 stud game for years and years and years. And some of the top players in the world played in it. You know, I think of Johnny Hennigan, Phil Ivey, Barry Greenstein at the time. This was one of the biggest cash games, or if not the biggest 7 stud cash game in the world, and it ran for years. And Larry was in it most days, and from all accounts played pretty well. He, you know, I'm sure he wasn't the biggest winner, but he's playing against the best in the world all the time. And did a lot for the game of poker. I mean, you can say a lot about what he did with his business and whatever. Everybody has a different opinion on that. But, you know, the Hustler Casino was a nice place to play poker. I played a bunch in there. And obviously that 7 card stud game was legendary. Daniel, did you ever play in that game?
It's so funny because I was invited many times playing the game. A lot of actually, you know, close friends who played in it regularly. And it was a weird game in a lot of ways. Like, there was some weird dynamics to it. Larry just liked to play, you know, he just liked to play high stakes. They played usually 15 and 3,000, not much higher than that. And, you know, David Oppenheim, that's where he really built a massive bankroll. I mean, Larry was fine playing with essentially Ted Forrest, David Gray, you know, like all professionals. Like, he had plenty of money from his business, as you mentioned. And I mean, it wasn't a good stud player, but, you know, he just enjoyed the game. And yeah, no, I never actually went over there to play. I mean, a lot of guys, what they would do is they would rent a plane. Really, they would, you know, 4 or 5 guys rent a plane, fly to LA, 2 hours. It's about you're looking at about 6,000, 7,000, because it usually costs about 5,000 for gas on a private plane in that neighborhood, depending on the price of gas. So they'd fly out, split it up, and then they would, from there, play the session and fly back in the evening. And oh man, look at that. All these pictures. Wow. Look at that wheelchair. Yeah.
Nice wheelchair.
But for all intents and purposes, he was a gentleman. He was always respectful, never got out of line, wasn't a bad loser, was a very likable guy. And like I said, I never really had much interaction with him. But
I want to ask in a game like that. So like it's literally one whale and 7 card studs. So at the maximum 7 other guys at the table, but probably less most of the time. So you talk about guys like Oppenheim and David Gray and Ted Forrest all playing against one guy. Do you think that they all are just like sort of selling off a bunch of action to each other? Because that's kind of what happens nowadays in like these super high roller events. In a game like that, like a really big game, 1,500, 3,000 stud. Stud's a game where you the old school. You see Fifth Street, you got to go to the river, so it's kind of a high variance game. How do these pros kind of stay in business other than maybe swapping with each other? Are they all staked, or what's happening?
If you want to know the truth, it's much worse than that. I'm being honest. It's much worse than that. It was often 5, 6 pros playing, one guy staking all of them. So he had a piece of all of them, right? Yeah. Which from a strategic perspective, there are situations that can arise where there can be some weird spots. I remember experiencing this once myself years ago. Alan Cunningham, we grew up together playing, the games. We were in Tunica, Mississippi, and there's a big Raz game. It's a 500, 1,000 Raz game for us at the time. And we both wanted to play it, but we're like, I don't know, man, it's kind of bad for a bankroll. Like, well, let's like swap 50%. We said, this is before we even really thought about, how the depths of, the situation or whatever. And we played for a little while. And then I remember there was a situation where he bet, I had the nuts, and Eskimo Clark was behind me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is brutal, right? Because if I raise, that's actually costing me EV because I have half of Alan anyway, right? I have half of him anyway. So I don't get any value of like beating him in a pot. So from a financial perspective, I'm incentivized to just call and hope that Eskimo also calls, which is collusion, right? And it's implicit. It's not like you're actually thinking out loud. So like as soon as that hand came up, literally as soon as that hand came up where that came up, I took Alan aside. I was like, yeah, we got to be off. We can't do that. Cause it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I literally supposed to be in a situation where I'm like, oh, let me make a decision that's financially in my worst interest because it's good for the spirit of the game. It's too difficult to do. And I can't imagine how many times the player, and I won't mention him, who was staking these other players is in a spot where one of his horses bets, he's got the nuts and Larry's behind, right? So, it's a whole new mathematical equation of collusion, which is unfortunate, but that's why I think it's really important. And that's why when I played three-handed in the Super High Roll Bowl with Justin Bonomo and Jason Kuhn, I just took them aside and I said, guys, I'm three-handed with you. I'd just like to know, do you have a piece of each other? If so, how big? Okay. Jason was forthcoming. Justin was a little less. He just wanted to let me know, like, well, if I tell you that I'm playing for X amount of myself, is that enough for you? And I'm like, I guess. But I wonder sometimes, like, how problematic that could be and how much transparency should be an issue at those stages. Because, listen, it's really, really tough if you have a considerable percentage of another player and you're playing three-handed to just say, okay, well, you may actually do things that are in your subconscious that are like collusive, right?
Yeah, it's tough spots. Okay, so let's move on from that and move on to something that happened a couple of weeks ago. It's been a while now. This is, here's what happens. I wake up one morning and our podcast group chat, and Terrence has posted a screenshot of a bet over at Pokershares that Mike Mcdonald either owns part of, all of, some of, is involved with. It's not 100% clear. But this was on the Bill Perkins versus Landon Tice match. And built into this match And I have to admit that I didn't know the details of exactly how the match had been worked out at the time. But they'd worked out where it was 9 big blinds per 100 that Landon was going to pay for over a 20,000 hand sample size to play this match. He was going to pay Bill Perkins to do that. So Pokershares put up a line that said to the challenge, the winner of the challenge, I believe is what it read, and it was pretty much even money for both sides. Terrence saw that, and I'm sure Terrence will clarify this, but he asked in the chat if anybody had seen this bet and what they thought of it. And I didn't know, I'm not super familiar with Landon and what his abilities were. And for some reason, because I think maybe he was doing all the Joey pods for the Doug and Daniel match, I thought maybe he was a PLO guy because they'd been talking some PLO on the thing. So I thought maybe I think he might be a PLO specialist playing No Limit Hold'em. So does the line make sense? I don't know. I believe Ross wondered. I don't think Ross knew, but in the chat, you wondered if there was a handicap built in, and Daniel thought it was a good bet. And Terrence went off and you made the bet based on the fact that it wasn't super clear on, if this was betting on this was betting on Landon to beat Bill Perkins just overall, money-wise, $1. But in turn, it was a challenge, and there was, 9 big blinds per 100, but it wasn't spelled out. Okay, there it is. So, Terrence, obviously there's a lot to say here. It went south from there. I think what happened was you made the bet, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the support reached out to you to clarify a bet, which is a bit strange because support doesn't exactly reach out and clarify bets very often. It's a bet is a bet, but they felt the need, so it's clear that they understood that maybe this was poorly written or whatever. And then it went south from there. You got into it with Timex, and you guys have been friends.
Yeah,
for a while.
Sorry, but I have another question for you. It's like, are you dumb?
That's
it. That's all
that question. That's the fundamental question. I guess that's what the internet poker world got to debate for 72 hours is am I dumb? And if so, how dumb?
Because that's what Mike did, right? So he understood, he heard, or I guess probably support told him, hey, Terrence has made this bet and we're having a little bit of back and forth about it. And Mike caught wind of that and then immediately sent you a message where he started off with, are you dumb?
Yeah.
Which, it's a really weird way to address a friend, given that this is somewhat murky. And I get that friends talk to each other like that. I'm not sure, and you can clarify, Terrence, if your friendship is on that level. Like, I've been friends with you for quite a long time. I can't imagine a situation where I would be reasonably upset with you and send you a text and say, are you dumb?
Right. Well, that's the weird thing is that, we're not really like tight friends or anything. We probably hung out socially in 12 years or so. But if you are the thing is, if you are buddy with someone to the point where you can rib them and say, are you dumb? You probably wouldn't do it in a situation that's already a little charged, as you realize this. Okay. I think you pretty much got those facts. I actually it's funny that you outed yourself as being in that chat. I originally erased your guy's name. I didn't want to get anybody else involved because this was my thing and it was blowing up. But obviously I've had a lot of time to think about that. But yeah. So what happens is, from my perspective, I think you pretty much nailed it. I don't think I even follow Pokershares on Twitter. I just follow Mike, and Mike retweeted the Pokershares line. I don't bet a lot on Pokershares. I bet during the Daniel versus Doug one because I just threw some fun stuff up there. I basically bet what Daniel told me that I should bet. And I don't think I made money because Daniel didn't make money. So, no problem taking my action on that one, guys.
Are you dumb? Are you dumb? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm dumb for listening to you. Apparently, no,
yeah.
It's I like a gamble. I like a gamble if it's plus EV, even better. So yeah, I didn't know about the thing, and so I put up the original screenshot there, which was that it just it's I'll put it up again just so everybody's watching on YouTube can see that real quick. Let me throw that up there and try not to screw it up. It's a little bit small. Mike's accused this of being cropped or whatever, but you can see there it says Bill Perkins versus Landon Tice heads up challenge. Market void of 0 hands are played. Just says both guys minus 109 or in British format 1.92. Doesn't say anything about 9BB 100. Doesn't say whatever. I think 720K is the difference. What Mike took exception to is that I cropped out the quoted tweet from Landon, you can kind of see it at the bottom. It's, I didn't do a great job, obviously, if I'm trying to be deceptive, because Landon's quick tweet's still there. And that's the one that said 90, but I didn't click that one. I don't know. Like, apparently I am dumb because I don't like do all my research on this. But this is the thing. I never expected it, because like if there's a point spread involved, like usually you go to the point, it's like if you have, whatever, if you have like Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl -3.5 or whatever it was, like it says Tampa Bay -3.5, like what you're betting on. If you don't see the -3.5, you think you're betting on Tampa Bay to win, like, right? I don't know.
Can you put that up again? Can you put that thing up again?
Yeah, sure.
Real quick, so because here's the thing. I agreed with you initially, Terrence, and I think that's like a spot where they should just eat it. But then when I relook at the wording, okay, so underneath it says Bill Perkins versus Landon Tice, HU challenge. HU means heads up.
Yep.
And then the word challenge doesn't say heads up, no limit, doesn't say PLO, doesn't actually have any of the specifics about what the challenge is. So when I look at that now in retrospect, because I remember I told you, I said, if it was me and I was the company, I'd be like, all right, it's $1,000. Who gives a shit? But when I look at it now, I think like, all right, the challenge for any of those that were watching it on Twitter or anything like that, anyone betting on it would know that the challenge was, can I beat you by 9 big blinds or more? Right. So everyone who knew that. You obviously didn't. And when you made the bet, which is clear, right? But they did not implicitly say the challenge is win by $1, lose by $1. So it is kind of ambiguous, right? In the way that it's written. And I agree with you that it is ambiguous and needs a follow-up. Having said that, like, since, hand one hadn't even happened yet, them letting you know, like, listen, this is what the rules are. You have a choice. Like, I don't know that you have a leg to stand on specifically on saying like, no, this is what the challenge is, because the rules were never clearly written anywhere. Right. Yeah, so
I think that's a totally reasonable interpretation. I think what you said is what a lot of people said, which is that like, hey, they came to you and emailed you to clarify this, which, as Adam points out, like, do they do that on all their bets? Like, I don't remember like clarify, like when you bet Tampa Bay on the money line or whatever, like, do they say like, hey, just so you know, it's, you know what I mean? Like they don't like they on some level must understand that it's sort of poorly done. And now if you look at it on the website now, it says like clearly like Bill Perkins must, Landon Tice must win by 720, whatever it says on there, but it's very clear and there's no way anybody could screw it up now. But I did. And so so that gets us to the conversation that I have with Mike, which is everybody on Twitter has already seen, which he starts with, "Are you dumb?" And I'm like, "LOL, what?" And then we get into it. You can read it on the Twitter timeline. I don't need to rehash it, but I think having had like a long time to think about all this. I mean, I think overreactions were significant on both sides. He doesn't need to come after me thinking that I'm trying to aggressively angle shoot him, because for me, from my point of view, like, I don't know that I've done something wrong here. I've just asked for them to honor the bet that I think was up there. And, you think, Daniel, that the word challenge makes all the difference. I don't follow Landon. I do follow Bill, but I'm not on like Twitter all the time. I didn't know what challenge means. Like, it's just like, I legitimately thought,
like, it doesn't say no limit hold 'em. It just says challenge. Like, what is the challenge? Is a challenge like push-ups?
Right.
Literally, like, there's no depth to what the challenge is. It's just like, here is the line on the challenge. Then they should have, a screen below, like, what is this challenge? Like, is it a drinking challenge? Is it a poker challenge? Like, it was so ambiguous that, and I think they misunderstood that, like, some people like you wouldn't know that Landon is a clear favorite in this. Like, so like for me, if I saw you bet that, I'd be like, come on, I would first of all think like, Landon's like a professional poker player and Bill's a businessman. So you obviously knew that, this line was weird for some reason.
Yeah. And then I was, well, I mean, Adam could have thought the same as me, right? Like, Adam wasn't the guy who made the bet, but he could have thought the same thing. He was like, oh, Landon plays PLO. He doesn't play no limit. And it's like, okay, like, that's a reasonable explanation. Maybe that's the thing. So, but it's like, one of the things is that, like, once this, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but one of the things that, this ended up in the court of public opinion, and you just had shit ton of people with opinions all across the board, like far to Mike's side, far to my side, a lot of stuff in the middle, just the full spectrum. It sort of engulfed poker Twitter for a couple of days. But one of the things is that I noticed that even with this distribution, a lot of the sort of people that lean towards my side of the argument were just sort of like randoms, and a lot of people that lean towards Mike's side were like professional poker players and like people really in the know. So like Joe Blow 69 is the kind of guy saying like, hey, Timex is the book, whatever. Terrence is just like a customer, like treat the customer well. Whereas like well-known poker pro guy tends to be on Mike's side because, often because they've also like done business with Mike and stuff like that. And, there's all these kind of reasons like, oh, Terrence, you're supposed to know. And it's like, am I? Okay, sure. I mean, I'm supposed to know, that's fine. I think in the end, getting down to it, I think after reading like the opinions of a lot of people that I consider respectable people and intelligent, like people whose opinions that I respect. Yeah, like, I maybe should have let the whole thing go after they offered to like cancel the bet, because like they're clarifying no actions happened, whatever, no harm, no foul. It's not, like I wrote in the post, what like an Isai Scheinberg would have done, but it's a reasonable thing to do. I also think it's possible at the same time that Mike was a complete douchebag in the way that he acted and behaved. I think both of those things can be true. I can be wrong for like insisting on this, and he can also just be like way over the top. Now he said to me also that like a lot of this was sort of defensiveness about his customer service people, which I get. I have run a customer service operation. I totally get when people are dickheads to customer service people, like you should put them on blast. I have absolutely no problem with that. I have banned people from both Pokerstars and Ultimate Poker, the only two places I've ever worked, for being abusive to sports staff. So I've
hang on. So just I'll ask you, were you a dickhead to the customer service?
Well, you may judge. I will put it up right now. I just want to make sure I'm going to share the right window. That's the one. Okay, so I think we see that here. There's the emails, the clarification. So it's the clarification email. And then my response is, and it's the tone was not solid. So it's clearly not what I bet on or what you guys were advertising. Sounds like you guys are going back on your bet. That's an aggressive tone. Is it a dick tone? I don't know. It's up to you guys to decide. And then sort of this long gap between 216 and 251 where I don't answer is the sort of conversation that I have with Timex. That's all that. So, I mean, I definitely, I would never be abusive, like straight up just abusive to people who work in customer service email, because I think I know better than that. And so I get that. But on the other hand, like he's going to go out there and try to put on a full out assault on my integrity. And my integrity is something that I've worked hard for a long time. And I'm a part of this community. And even though I'm not a professional poker player anymore, haven't been a professional poker player since 2012, right? So that's like a really long time. I'm a part of this community. I interact with people. Like these are my people, like you guys, the people listening to the show, the people in the Twitter universe, the people who are online pros and live pros. I've interacted with a lot of them over the years, and I consider this my community. And while it would be nice to be Daniel Negreanu and never give a shit about anybody else's opinion, I still feel human. And so when he sort of comes after me and he calls, he calls me an angle shooter and he calls me a scammer and he goes things like that, like, yeah, I'm gonna have a rough time with that. I'm going to come back at that hard. And what gets me about this is that he can't see the perspective of somebody not trying to scam him. So like somebody just being like, I saw a line, like it's such a fine line, because it's, Daniel said that, if I can see the perspective of somebody thinking that like, oh, of course, that it's with the 9BB 100. But on the other hand, there's Adam, who didn't even know why, who was trying to think of a plausible reason. There's a very fine line between.
Here's the thing, though. This isn't a sports book, or a betting shop for only people in the know, right? And this is what it boils down to for me. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Terrence, but I just want to go over a couple of things. First is every sports book is within their rights, and they do it all the time for canceling bets that are deemed to be mistakes or ambiguous. So they're, in my opinion, they are well within their right to come back to Terrence and go, you know what, Terrence, I can see that this was not clear on our part. This bet game hasn't happened yet, or this challenge hasn't started. Your bet is canceled as per our T&Cs. And thank you for your business. If you want to bet it with the 9 big blind, feel free to do so. And so But then Timex goes farther, and he kind of takes it personally because, and again, I don't know. Does anybody know how much of this book Timex owns? Is he 5%, 10%?
Probably most of it. But I don't know.
When we bet with Pokershares, are we betting with Timex? Is it the same thing?
But here's what really blows me away. Timex. So this bet was like, I can share, it was $1,000, right?
Yeah,
$1,000. So like,
whatever. Yeah.
In the bigger picture, like this is like not, and I get $1,000 is a significant amount of money, but like in the bigger picture for Timex, whatever, it's like nothing. This guy, he should have he would be on a show like Billions, because he's like, if I was him, right, I'd be like, all right, Terrence, you can have your free 1,000. It's no big deal in the bigger.
You can have 100 to 1 on
yeah,
on
exactly. Like, and I think about the precedent that was set by Proline. For those of you in Canada, you know what Proline is, where you can go to the grocery store and you can fill out, well, back when I was, around, you fill out like 2 or 3 team parlays or whatever. There was a soccer game listed on Proline just, at 3 p.m. Okay. And that was still on there, but they did not do the conversion. So the game was over. The game was actually over. So a whole bunch of people went in after the game and started hammering and printing tickets for, that are already like guaranteed wins.
They pass posted.
Yeah. They honored them. Right. So they saw the good publicity of that. So for Timex to see that he was willing to sort of go to bat for that, like it shows just kind of like I can't relate to this because like we've talked about this. I joke with Timex and I really like Timex. Promise you I do. We just have a different mindset of like, you don't tip 18% when 17% is enough. Like, who gives a shit? You're rich, man. Whatever. Like, it's fine. Just leave $100, whatever the case may be. Don't leave like 98, 72. Just like go 100, whatever. It's fine. But this is part of his, like, I think, I talked about my journey and my joy in life is about, challenges and stuff. For him, I think it's a game to him in the bigger picture. And he's like, Terrence, I don't care if it's $1,000. I'm not letting this one go. I think he would, like he said, I think he joked about this. He's like, he'd give you $1,000 if you needed it as a friend, but he was not going to let you have this bet.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of gross. Like, there's a lot of that stuff too. Like, like implying that I'm broke or whatever, which is like, I'm not broke, but even if I was, that's not something you make fun of someone about. It's the sort of idea that I. Going back to before, the sort of idea that I couldn't just be wrong. Like when I saw the line, I was like, oh, this seems like a plus EV bet, not like this seems like a mistake, right? And there's actually like such a fine line between this, right? Like I'm in an MMA group chat and there's other poker players and we gamble. And sometimes we'll see a line on a fight and we'll just be like, well, this guy who's like plus 200, like he should be a favorite, right? And we'll talk and we'll be like, yeah. And then we hammer that guy. And it's like, they didn't make a mistake. It was just like or maybe the line moves, right? Like maybe the plus 200 guy becomes a minus 200 guy. Like, because like not every line is good. And like, that's kind of the business that you're in when you're a sports book, right? Like,
yeah.
Point, Terrence, I got plus 3.5 to 1 or whatever it was that the World Series wouldn't happen from Pokershares. Right. That was a terrible line.
Yeah. Yeah, and they hammered that, and to their credit, they honored it all the way through, right? The idea what upsets me is, I mean, initially what upset me was that they canceled the bet, and I see now that I was wrong to be like that upset about them canceling the bet. What still gets me is that I'm a shithead scammer angle shooter because I thought that this should be a bet, or because I saw the bet, or because I clicked the thing 3 times. So that's another storyline that came up, is because like I bet the 1,000 and then the line didn't change. And I just thought that meant there's enough liquidity or enough people betting the other side, because that's what happens on like Pinnacle, right? Like if you bet on something that's got a lot of action on Pinnacle, even if you bet, like it doesn't move the line, because like your bet just didn't matter, because there's like $1 million bet on this side, $1 million bet on that side. I thought that, again, maybe naively, that might be what's happening here, right? Because they just...
Sorry, I want to clarify that real quick, Terrence, because I think it says like maximum 1,000.
It says maximum 1,000 bet, but once you bet it, it doesn't stop you from betting more. So like I'm Bet 365, which is, I only have accounts on 2 places, is Bet 365 and Pinnacle. On Bet 365, if I bet like the maximum on a fight, it doesn't move the line, but they just don't let me bet again. Like it's just like you have exceeded your maximum bet or whatever. And so they refunded me the 2 bet, and I was like, whatever, it's no big deal. But like, that was the thing that made me look like such a guy who was like scamming his friend and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, people are just taking like the worst possible interpretation of actions. And maybe the answer to "Are you dumb?" is yes. Maybe I just am that dumb. But there is something to be said about maybe just don't always assume that like everybody's trying to scam you. Like maybe.
I would say like there's zero chance that you're like scamming, but I would say this: if I was an arbitrator in it, one of the first questions I would ask is, all right, show me the page, which you showed me. Landon Tice versus Bill Perkins, HU challenge. The first question I would have is, what is the HU challenge? Give me the definition of what that is. Because again, it could be so many things. And then when that's expanded upon and explained, then it's clear that it's, 9 big blinds per 100, which is great because you also get the opportunity, Terrence, of saying, oh, it's 9 big blinds per 100. I don't want to bet that. I get to pull that back.
Yeah.
Right. So I would actually, I would nullify the bet.
Yeah, I think that's really fine. And that's one of the things I said is like, okay, let's just find some arbitrary, because I didn't want to do this and have this big, I hate being like the center of attention and like having big drama about me. Like the last time it happened was like 2006 and Mike and Adam were there. And like, it's like the Playboy man. It's been like 14 years since I was like Daniel's involved in the news like every 2 weeks because he swore too much on Twitch or whatever. Like I
haven't swore today at all. And I'm drinking.
You're drinking.
You know why? Because I was doing the chess thing, and there's a lot of kids that play chess.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, it's a different audience. I don't want to like cock, fuck, dick, shit. Oh, damn it. Look what you made me do. Damn, I was doing so good.
Terrence is so dirty. But like, that's the thing. Like, I don't, I didn't want to do this public, especially with like somebody that I've been friendly with for a long time. Like I wanted to say like, let's just find like 3 guys, 4 guys. Like we both know lots of people. Like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And we will never fucking talk about this again. But again, I think in his world, it's like even going to arbitration is like, it's a free roll for Terrence, right? Because he might win. And I don't want to set this precedent that like, oh, somebody can angle shoot me and then try to go to arbitration.
When I read his response, I think he was offended. Like to come out with, are you dumb? Absolutely. Like that's extreme. Like, are you dumb? You guys have been friends, whatever. Like, I think he was offended because, he's tried, to most people's perception to be a fair and balanced book on all things gambling. And for you to question that, knowing him, I think he took it personal right off the bat, came back with a personal attack, which made you feel personal about it.
Oh yeah.
But in the bigger picture, it's kind of like, it's really a silly thing when we really look at it.
We both let our egos get in the way. This is like the typical like internet nerd version of a bar fight, right? Hey man, were you looking at my girl? And the other guy gets a chance to say, oh no, sorry, I apologize. Or he gets this chance to say, hey, fuck you, I'll look at whoever I want. And then the first guy gets a chance to say, he can either say, you know what, man, I don't want any trouble. Or he can say, fuck you, why don't we take it outside? And then the guy after that can say, you know what, like, come on, let's just be civilized person.
So are you saying that you want a line on a fight between Timex? Is this your ploy? Are you trying to go after him to get him in the ring?
I don't fight anymore. I don't.
Terrence is trying to get Timex in the ring. You got to throw in some cockfucks. You got to throw in some insults, some more, more scams is better, whatever.
More scams are better.
Do whatever you got to do. And then maybe you'll get him in the ring.
I've thought about this. I've thought about doing prop bet fights, but man, I'm fucking 40 and like I'm just done with it. No, I don't want to fight Timex. I don't think he wants to.
The weird thing for me is how Mike can't sort of be self-aware enough to know that, because he's a brilliant guy. There's no question about it. But he can't understand that he owns or operates a sports book. Like it is a sports book. It's a business. It's not something for friends only.
It's not me versus him.
Yeah, but dude, that's what I was saying. He's wired differently. He's wired differently. He's wired from like literally, it doesn't matter if it's 8 cents, $8, 800,000, 8 million. Like if he thinks he's in the right, he will fight. He will fight for every nickel and dime. Not because he's some greedy asshole, necessarily, but because like he truly stands for what he thinks is right. And in this case, he thought, and he was wrong. He was wrong to think this, that you were taking a shot because it was implied in his mind that like, well, everybody knows Landon is like the up and coming poker pro guy and Bill's a businessman. And so obviously there was implicit, and everyone, it was always listed every time, people talked about the bet, it was 9 big blinds per 100. Now it's listed on Pokershares without any of that knowledge. You did that. He assumed you were taking a shot, which is wrong. But like, This is a guy who, he's a principled guy and he's always has been. Are you dumb? Like that was clearly he was ticked off at you. But in the end, I hope you guys can be friends because I think like it's not an important enough issue for it to cause like a breach of friendship.
So Terry,
you're probably right. And
he's a bigger man than I am because I couldn't get past some of the stuff he said. He said, I'll flip Terrence for 3 times his worth or some bullshit like that. And also, I think you mentioned that you were going to be off Twitter for a while and you're going to take care of your daughter. And he said, yeah, when I get caught lying and scamming, I'm going to just be a better. Like he said some fucking terrible things. Like at the end of the day, those were terrible, shitty things to say to him. It might happen, but I would never be friends with somebody who said that to me personally.
I don't.
Well, how about this, Adam? Fuck you, Adam.
See, he doesn't believe you though. He doesn't believe me. Damn it. Cock fuck you. How about you got to work on your bluffing range. You got to construct that. You got to tell a story, right? When you're bluffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. We're probably not going to be friends. And, I think we can at least put this past each other and be reasonable. But yeah, like he said some nasty things, most of which I didn't get to see because I was off Twitter, which is another thing I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, like the thing is Daniel's definitely right that it got too far and it got too big for what it was because ultimately is not this thing. And I think it's like this ego escalation thing that I just talked about where one guy could back down and the other guy chooses not to back down and just like we go regress higher and higher. The thing that really bugged me, sort of the last thing before that was, he did this I'll flip you for net worth thing, which I wouldn't have only known about because you texted it to me. He did the last post of his I interacted with was he said he'd donate 25,000 or I think it was 25,000 to a charity of my choice if I showed the chat. Which is the chat that you were talking about, Adam, when we brought this up, that showed that I went into it with good intentions, right? And so I showed that chat. I blurred your guys' name out because I didn't think anybody else needed to be involved with it. And he didn't take that. He wanted further evidence. He wanted one more people. And I was like, the rest of the chat just clearly says who you guys are because it's really obvious. And I was like to sort of bring in this like card of like I'll dangle this money over your head if you dance for me was really upsetting. And that's what led me to listen, I do have charities that I believe in. Not wearing my Free Hong Kong shirt, but the people in Hong Kong who have faced political persecution for trying to make their city a better place and have been thrown in jail or worse, like beaten and raped in some cases, who are trying to get overseas to countries like Canada and the UK and Australia. I think those people really need our support. So I threw money at that, and I said, "This is the charity that I choose. Please feel free to donate to it." Mike.
What is the charity? What is the charity?
There are a lot of them, but the 612 Human Assistance Fund, I believe, is what it called. It's 612 something. Yes, just to Google. 612. Humanitarian Relief Fund is what I donated to. And I just said that. And the reason why I said the thing about my parenting was it was a Wednesday morning where I woke up. A lot of bad things had happened. Our cat got sick. My girlfriend had to take the cat to the vet. We actually thought like the cat might die. It had to go into surgery. It's fine now. And I was like alone with my kid and I hadn't slept all night because of all this stuff. And like my kid was just like, Daddy, come play Magic. 3-year-old stuff. Like they want you to do everything and like be fully energetic and be fully engaged. And they want you to, ride the pony with me, chase me like a cheetah and like all this kind of stuff. And I just didn't have it in me because I was drained and I was just tired. And I'm just like, I'm looking at my phone because people are saying mean things about me on the internet. Right. And this is wrong. If I'm not being a present parent because people are saying mean things about me on the internet, even if I deserve them, even if you say I assume deserve every single one of them, which I don't think I deserve every single one of them, but maybe I deserve some of them. Like this is bad. I got to step away. And I got to say that. So I just straight up, I posted it. I deleted Twitter off of my phone. And then I set a thing in my browser that blocked Twitter. So like every time I go up, it just goes to a blank screen. And the first 12 hours, 24 hours was really like, I was really like anxious, kind of jonesing me, like, what are they saying about me? What are they saying about me? And then after that, like it became so much more calm to just to be like, I can't do anything about it. And also, like, I'm back on Twitter now, but I kind of look at it for like 5-10 minutes a day. And the rest of that week, I just sort of realized, man, I got a lot of time. Because we all dick around on Twitter way too much. Daniel's looking at his phone. He's probably doing it right now.
No, I'm not actually. I was looking at see if Phil Kessel fucking had an assist, and he did.
Yeah, okay.
Goal.
But we all waste too much time on Twitter. And, I think it's really important for the poker community. We have to know what's going on. Like, it's a big part of the prep that we do for this show is being aware. And once in a while, you might want to be on Twitter a little bit more often so you know the terms of a heads up bet that you might be betting on. That might be useful.
Prep for the show, Terrence?
What's that?
You do prep for this show?
Well, I mean, once every 3 months you take a show off, and I have to do prep for a show. I have to find 20 funny tweets. But it's actually been really nice to reduce my Twitter time. I know that Daniel did this, like I want to say it was like a year ago, about that you took a hiatus from Twitter, and it really does clear your mind. And
it's really funny because Norman Che got mad at me. He got upset because I posted on Twitter that I've tried this new thing where I'm limiting my because on your phone you have an app. You have apps where you can say you only get this much time per day. So I was limiting my Twitter time to 30 minutes a day, and I found a lot of benefits from it. He got mad for me being preachy. Sorry, but I was just saying that it was a good thing for me. But I can totally relate because even without the time limit anymore, I spend so little time on Twitter outside of actually just reading news. I don't go down the rabbit hole of what the latest thing this person said to that person and blah, blah, blah. I miss all of it and I just don't care. And there's so many times where I've written out a tweet and I'm about to press send. And if I hesitate at all, I just don't send it.
It's a weird thing to feel like you don't have to have. I did that too. I was going to retweet a reply to somebody. It's you don't actually have to tell everybody your opinion on everything. It feels weird. It feels like that's sort of our natural instinct. It's of course everybody wants to know my opinion on this thing.
But it's crazy the world we live in too, because I was telling my wife this the other day with, what's going on with, you guys don't watch The Bachelor and all this kind of stuff. It's when you don't take an opinion on something, you get shit for it. Right. So let's say, for example, something happens in Guatemala, right? Where there's a water shortage and the government's screwing. I'll get a tweet where all I tweeted was I had a great day today. I won 6 out of 8 chess games. And a guy will reply great, good for you in your chess game. But the children of Guatemala have just suffered through no water through 6 days. And you haven't said a thing about it. I'm holy fuck, bro.
Was it by Rachel Dratch doing Debbie Downer?
Yeah, but it's literally, that's a thing though, right? Because say for example, here's what happened. I'll give you a little brief for those that watch Bachelor. Chris Harrison went on extra, which is hosted by an ex-Bachelorette person. And he said some things regarding the race that were a little, he didn't come out right. He was sort of, he didn't say things the way he probably should have, but he came from a good place. His tone was always I don't know. Is this a thing? Shouldn't this be a thing or whatever? So anyway, he issued an apology, the whole deal. But now everybody in what's called Bachelor Nation was sort of called to, what is your statement on this? I'm dude, I was on season 5. Okay. It's season 20. I need to make a public statement now based on what Chris Harrison said about one of the bachelorettes who, I'll get along, she liked some stuff, some Confederacy stuff or some QAnon stuff on Twitter or whatever. And she's on the show dating a bachelor who is black. She's white. He's black. So a whole bunch of stuff came up and Chris Harrison kind of said, well, before we get all the facts, do we know? Blah, blah, blah. So he got in trouble. The point I guess I was making is that sometimes when you say nothing, you still get shit for it. You're a celebrity who doesn't say something about what's going on with representation of this and that and whatever. And they come at you for talk because you tweet, let's say on a day where something bad happens, right? And you tweet something good that happened to you. You will invariably get at least 15 messages from people who say, how insensitive are you for not noticing?
That's virtue signaling, right? This is why we created the term virtue signaling. It's okay if you had a good day and you won all your chess games, if you also first tweet about the poor children in Guatemala.
No, that's even then okay. You shouldn't. Even then you shouldn't. So you're basically supposed to be in mourning because here's the thing: atrocities happen every day, every single day across the world, across the globe, right? Like if you ever say anything that's positive or you had a good thing, it's like that's not related to the issue at hand. Like I can't tell you if you looked at my Twitter feed and my replies, sometimes you'd be like, "Wow, bro, that's a stretch."
If I could ban myself from one thing on Twitter, it would actually be reading your replies, because sometimes I see that it has that little bubble that says like 132 people have replied to your post. I have never clicked the reply button and been like, boy, that's a good point of view that I thought from that random person. I
could tweet out, just had the most awesome almond butter, peanut butter milkshake of all time.
Oh right? Man, almonds are really bad for the environment. You know that,
right? Yeah. I'll get to like, great that you're so lucky to have food when there's people starving in certain parts of the world and you're not using your platform to make a difference. You're just like, it's a no-win. If you give a shit, if you actually give a shit, it's a no-win going down that road. Like you're gonna be constantly defending yourself for saying stuff and then also trying to defend yourself for not saying stuff.
And then when you do say something positive, they're like, stick to poker, bro.
Oh God!
There's the stick to poker.
I got that with chess. I got
stick to poker or go back to Canada.
I got some dickheads in the chess chat because I did it on Twitch. I got some dickheads saying stick to poker when I'm playing chess. I'm like, I'm not losing any money here playing chess.
It's funny because if you the chess player wanted to come into my poker game, I would welcome you very readily. If you guy who's 400 points better than me at chess want to come and play my poker game, I'm just going to be nice to you.
All right, let's move on, guys.
One thing real quick before I say, because I did say that I was off Twitter for a super long time and the benefits of that. But one thing is I have like a shit ton of messages that have been really supportive and really nice and really touching that I haven't responded to. I'm really sorry. I've been trying to get through to all of those. And then like my at mentions are a disaster. So I definitely won't be able to get that. But
so you're saying a bunch of your burner accounts. A bunch of your burner accounts. So you're saying
my burner accounts have been DMing me.
Sent you like positive reinforcement. How many burner accounts is that? Like 30?
I just created a bot that learned to speak English and say
Terrence,
nice things.
0699944 egghead.
Yeah.
Terrence, you're awesome. Timex sucks.
I mean, I still have, they might be fake, but I still have to respond to them. You realize it's just a polite thing to do. But no, it's one of the few positive things that came out of this is that like, you do kind of find out who has your back and who's appreciative of you. So I do appreciate everybody who's out there.
All right. Moving on. Phil Hellmuth went on he went on a lot of podcasts, except this one for some strange reasons. He went on the No Gamble, No Future podcast over at Poker Go. Fantastic podcast, by the way, with Jeff Platt and Brett Hanks. A lot of fun. They have a good time in their podcast. So Phil does the show, and they ask him about the Daniel Negreanu versus Doug Polk match. And I guess Phil had made it clear that he'd bet on Daniel, and he was not happy about the fact that he lost money. He said he was disappointed, I believe was the word he used, with how Daniel played. And he went on to say stuff like, in only the way Phil too. And I think I mentioned to you guys in our group chat that I would just love to get this interview loaded up and stop it point by point and just enjoy the majesty that is Phil Hellmuth when he goes into talking about, something about himself. Generally, everything turns around to be about himself, but which is, he self-admits that he does this, and but it's entertaining as hell. And I'm on record to say I'm a huge Phil Hellmuth fan because of how entertaining he is. But he talked about how he was disappointed in Daniel and that he had talked to Daniel's coaches, MJ and what's the other coach's name?
Matt.
Yeah, MJ and Matt. And he said that, most of the things that he talked for them for, I think he said 20 minutes or something. And he aligned with all their, I believe the exact quote was, I couldn't learn anything from them or something like that. So he decided.
Yeah, I can give you the synopsis real quick. So first and foremost, Phil said he didn't like the way that I played, right? Now ask Phil, how many hands did he watch? 0. He did not watch any of the match, but said he did not like how I played. So what that tells you is he's making a lot of assumptions about, how I played or whatever. As far as like, he has this, I don't know, it's like a weird flex brag that Matt and MJ went to him originally. And they said, Phil, we can really help you with your game. We've got a lot of like new age cutting stuff. related to game theory and whatever else. And they talked a little bit through some stuff. And I guess Phil only heard the things that like they agreed upon, right? Because like, hey, I mean, we agree on everything. So what could I possibly learn? Because I know everything, right? So he loves to let people know that he sent them to Brian, our agent, who set up a meeting with me and helped me. So it's essentially his way of saying, I don't need any coaching, but Daniel, he could benefit from this. It's kind of like a way to diss me in a way. So I saw his tweet and I literally, and it's funny because Barry Carter, who's a Twitter personality as well in poker, he thought it was all fake and staged, that it was all safe. And I get why, totally get why, because it seems like, but it was not. I literally saw the video and I was like, all right, Phil, do you want to play heads up? Because I know from Doug, because Doug was letting me know that Phil offered him 15,000 hands, one table, 2 and 400, and he wanted 10-1 odds. Okay. To play like, with that format. And I'm like, I told Doug, send him my way because I'll do that. I don't think Phil would ever really do that because I think he knows. I don't know if he knows, but that would be really, really bad for him. So I said, you know what, let's do the high stakes duel thing, right? Since, he's the defending champ, he beat Antonio 3 times. He's won 27 out of the last 29 heads up matches or so he says. So I'm going to enter the arena and it'll happen in March. I can't give you the exact date. I know the exact date, but want to wait a little bit before we release that. And we will play. The structure's relatively deep. It will be a sit and go, unfortunately. He's not going to play me 20,000 hands online, but he's a big underdog, whether he knows it or not. Like I watched today, just because now that I'm on my next challenge or whatever, I watched his high stakes duel against Antonio, and he does some things that are, for lack of a better term, interesting. Like, for example, you tell me, what is this? Okay. You tell me what this is. Terrence, Ross, Adam, I want you to tell me what this is. Antonio min raises. He calls with 10-5 suited. Totally fine. Right? Flop is king 10-4. Check. Antonio bets half pot. 3,000. Phil check raise, min raises on a king 10-4 flop. Is that a bluff? Is it a value bet? Is it something else? Please explain.
That's called chewing your leg off to get out of the trap.
Oh, I know this because I used to read poker books in the 90s. This is what we call raising for information.
Find out where you're at.
Yeah, that's the other one.
So if you had to term it as a value bet or a bluff, which is it?
No. You didn't hear me. I said we were raising for information, and then
okay.
And then once the other guy does something, we just magically know what he has. That's how this works.
You gave me actually a great explanation. If I took that one away now, right? Because typically in poker, in real poker, you're either value betting or you're bluffing. There's like one or the other. Which is that one?
I mean, it's probably closer to value bet because it's second pair. But
I'll tell you what Terrence. I'll tell you what he's thinking. I'll bet you this is what Phil Hellmuth's thought process is. Antonio will bluff me. He will rebluff me so light. I'm going to check raise here. He's going to shove with no hand, no draw. And I'm going to call it off with second pair, no kicker. And
You're living in La La Land, Adam. They were like 400 big blinds deep at the time.
No, but I'm trying to crawl in his brain to figure out exactly what he's thinking.
I know. I don't want to give away too. I mean, you know what? I can give away a ton. Phil, he thinks tournament strategy, right? Which works, in a lot of tournaments. Like I think a lot of what he does exploitatively is actually good because people make mistakes against him. Jungle Man, Doug Polk, they were not willing to make the exploits against Phil that were so far off GTO or game theory to exploit him that a lot of what he does is going to work in a limited time frame, right? Obviously, if you play 25,000 hands, same stakes, same limits over a long period of time, if you're not adhering to GTO principles or like trying to play at an optimal level, you're going to get destroyed. You're just going to get destroyed. But in these small made-for-TV 2-hour deals where you play like 100, 150 hands, if those guys are not willing to circumvent the right play in some cases for Phil Hellmuth, which is a unique player in so many ways, then they give him a chance to win, right? I'm not going to give him that chance to win. Like, I don't know. So it's a sit and go, right? So sit and go, you can't be too big a favorite, but I'm going to probably lay for big money. Anybody who wants it, I'll lay 3-2 on this one. Happily. Like, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to win because there's probably nobody in the world that is a worse matchup for him than me. Like, maybe actually I would say one, Fedor Holtz. Fedor Holtz owns him so hard because Fedor Holtz goes exploit with him. And Fedor Holtz, like, he played Phil Hellmuth in every single hand and every situation, not only every hand, every street of every hand they played on Super High Roller when he absolutely dominated the guy. So maybe I would give Fedor like the edge over me. But what I'm going to do to Phil Hellmuth in this match is going to frustrate the shit out of him big time.
Did any of you guys see that there was a sports book that put out Phil Hellmuth versus Daniel Negreanu odds? Phil Hellmuth -150 at Real Kid Poker +110.
I don't think it was actually open for shop. I think it was just a line.
It was bet. No, it was betonline.ag.
Correct.
Okay.
$50.
And they took some bets. When they posted the line, like an hour later, they pulled it. They're like, nope, take this off the board, because obviously at those prices, people in the poker world knew that, I'm the bet in this spot. And they pulled it. And then they put it back up and ended up being like me minus like 250 or 300 or something like that.
This is the funny one is I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can still bet on the Phil part, but not the Daniel part.
Yes, exactly. That's what they took me off the board. You can bet Phil, but you can't bet me.
I want to know though.
Wait. Is that the Robin?
An obvious mistake? Should they cancel that?
Is that the Robin Hood Sportsbook?
Robin Hood, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
it's they titled it Heads Up Challenge.
Their terms and conditions say that if they made a mistake, they can just cancel those bets. Everybody that got +110 on Daniel, I think, are they honoring those bets?
No, because the person who owns the sports book is going to email them or message them separately and ask them if they're dumb.
Just to confirm, you're actually betting on Real Kid Poker. It's a screen name of some guy who plays on Bovada.
So this is, obviously it's really good PR for the sports book, right? They get to, allow $50, $100 bets, maybe, 20 or 30 of them, and they get retweeted into oblivion. So
I think they didn't know. I don't know. But you're right. That's not a bad strategy. And I remember actually Timex told me one time where there was a line posted for some tournaments where he put me at a price, and he let me know that because he put me at a price that was like, whoa, I would be offended. But he's doing that as a promo kind of thing. He was so it wouldn't be, it's not a bad idea to throw a line out every once in a while. That's kind of like a little bad to get people, incentivized to open up account to bet. And then maybe, you take advantage of them down the road.
So a few of us asked Phil to come on the pod and talk about the challenge and talk about how disappointed he was in Daniel's play. He didn't take us up on the offer.
Well, let me tell you this. So Phil, because I've been, I'm on the text chain with him because he doesn't reply to my texts lately. Apparently, we're supposed to do, we're going to do the No Gamble, No Future show on Tuesday. Okay. So you will get the chance, not here on DAT Poker Podcast, but you will get a chance there. And they said 2 p.m., which is a reasonable time Pacific. And he said literally that early. And I said, Phil, what time do you actually wake up? And he said, just now. It was 5 p.m. So Phil's on the nocturnal, nighttime shift, but we will discuss, we will have banter. Phil is as far as I'm concerned, he was made for TV. Yep. He's the absolute number one, way ahead of me or anybody else, most important player for televised poker. He's the most fun to watch because his genuine, the stuff that he says, his rants and all that kind of stuff. People say, oh, is that all for show? That's Phil, man. He's funny. He's just he'll get so crazy. For example, I watched today because I was watching, and Nick Schulman even mentioned this. It's like Antonio opened with 8-10 suited, heads up. He raised, okay? Phil 3-bet. So he called the 3-bet with 8-10 suited, right? And he won the hand. And Phil went off for 30 minutes about just calling with 10-8. He doesn't understand the game. It's you haven't learned yet. You don't know. And it's the most standard call of all time. They're 200 big blinds deep. And he wants him to fold 10-8 suited? What exactly are you calling with if you're folding 10-8 suited, right? So he does this stuff that is so outlandish and he drives people crazy. He's inadvertently like the biggest troll ever because he drives the GTO community and the kids, whatever, to like madness with the shit he says, you know? It's like, I'm just going to limp 90% of my buttons and destroy you. I'm like, okay, you know, good luck with that, I guess.
All right. Speaking of Phil and television, by the way, I don't know if everybody's caught up on High Stakes Poker Season 8, but they are now up to through 10 episodes. Phil Hellmuth is featured in the recent 2, along with Phil Ivey. Chamath has been on there, or Chamath, sorry. James Board, Brandon Adams. It's fantastic poker television, reminiscent of the old High Stakes Poker. And Phil was holding court and just doing a great job of making it entertaining poker. So I don't know if anybody out there is watching. Terrence, you've probably been pretty busy with stuff, but High Stakes Poker Season 8 is really good. So I'm looking forward to the future episodes. A couple of quick things. I know we got a couple of voicemails we'll try and do. We've run super long today, but a couple of quick things, or one quick thing here. The end of the Full Tilt Poker software is coming this week. And it's kind of a bit, to reminisce about back in the day when Full Tilt was, with Pokershares as the main place to go play poker. And the software was, along with Pokershares, clearly the 2 best poker softwares on the market. It wasn't close. They were both great in their time. And there's a lot of people that argue that the Full Tilt software is still great by today's standards. And it's been a while since I played on it, but I preferred the Full Tilt software over the PokerStars software back in the day. I just enjoyed it. I liked the interface, and I was luckier on it. No, just kidding. But I did like the software, and it's a bit nostalgic when it's going to be going away. And it's unfortunate. It's run, I believe, it's been run as sort of a skin to PokerStars for the last little while, but they're finally going to shut it down. They're not going to spend any more money or do anything more with it. Which is strange because they could probably sell it and somebody might buy it. But just quickly, you guys, when you think about Full Tilt, and what do you think about? What comes to mind for the first thing for you guys playing on Full Tilt? What comes to mind, Terrence?
Yeah. So I actually disagree with you. I wasn't a fan of the software. I didn't find it responsive. Like, I thought when you clicked on a button, it didn't quite feel right. Like when you clicked on a button, it sort of lagged. It was weird and kind of slow. We do owe Full Tilt a tremendous debt of gratitude for inventing what would become, Zoom poker, rush poker, fast fold poker, whatever you want to call it these days. The thing where you fold and you just get taken to a new table right away. Like, that's the sort of indelible legacy, that and, avatars that had emotions. I was the iguana. I don't know about you guys, but I was never a super big fan of it. I mean, to me, I was always a fan of the quick, snappy, decisions. Like, I wanted action. I wanted it fast. So I liked stars. I even liked Ultimate Bet, aside from the part where they were cheating me, because it was very fast. You could multi-table. You could do those little mini view things that Ultimate Bet had, where it just games in a straight line, which I thought was great. And their full tables had a first person perspective. I actually thought Ultimate Bet software was really good. I thought On Game was Snap and Full Contact Poker, shout outs. On Game Network had pretty decent software in the day. Was never a huge fan of the Full Tilt, but they were definitely revolutionary in the fast fold poker. And it was it was aesthetically pleasing. Like, the final tables looked cool. When you made a final table, you got that dark background. I think they had that before Stars. It made it feel like you were. That's one of the things, is that the Full Tilt, even though I wasn't a fan of the software, it was on brand with the brand that they were trying to represent, which was come and play with the pros and feel like you're a star. Feel like you're Phil Ivey, you're Eric Seidel, you're Jennifer Harmon, you're all these people who are a big deal, and you're playing in a big deal game in a big deal place. That's what it was really good at, and that's the sort of the feel that I think is Full Tilt Tiltware software legacy.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned UB, because that's actually where I was going. Because when you think about speed, if you're a professional poker player, UB software was lightning fast in comparison to both.
Like, I played heads up like 290 hands an hour on UB. Like, it was insane.
There was no shuffle. Like, there's no break. Boom, 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 boom. Cards did not go chick, 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 chick. They were just boom, boom. Really, really fast, black and sleek, pretty simplistic in terms of the look. It depends, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think for Terrence, this is probably true. And you can say if I'm wrong, but like you sort of get accustomed to something that you like, And then anything different, usually like, people are always, anytime there's like a Mac 9.10 or 10, like the new thing, you're like, oh, this sucks. It's not what I'm used to, right? Even when Stars changed their software, a lot of people are like, I hate this. I want to go back to the old stuff. I thought what Full Tilt did was good, like you said, in creating a new niche, right? Stars had that professional sort of vibe to it, and Full Tilt brought a little bit of like a cartoonish kind of aspect to poker with the avatars, with the ability to sort of change their faces and different things, and a little bit of a different look with the backgrounds, stuff like that. So ultimately, I think it's a personal choice thing. I do think it was I don't know, the brand like outlived itself. Like the software on its own, you'd think that other sites would be like, all right, well, my software sucks. Can I have yours since you're not doing anything with it whatsoever? Because it made sense for it to die. Like I know that when Stars bought it, and I think you were around at the time too, Terrence, maybe not, but part of the idea was like, when Eastside did this, it was a deal with the DOJ, but the goal at the time was to run much like, I think Coca-Cola and Pepsi are run by the same company, right? You have one owner running like the two top sites, and they battle against each other, where in reality, they're like really the same company, but two different brands that are sort of, fooling people, if you will. I think that was the idea. Ultimately, that didn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So it was only a matter of time before the brand, the software, everything died.
Yeah, one of the things with the sort of the taking over the software, like why doesn't one of these sites that has shitty software use it, is because I think a lot of times when a software like Full Tilt gets built, the original engineers aren't around anymore, right? And so those are, if you're just importing the software, like you have to integrate it into your existing backend. You got to do stuff into your architecture, and you're going to want to make improvements on it. And if you don't have the people who worked on it originally, that becomes a much harder task. Because
in addition to that, Terrence, I learned this too, because obviously I'm, with GG Poker now, and the template or the software, like sort of the backbone structural setup, really hinders progress in a lot of ways, right? So like, for example, something like a Party or even a Stars or whatever, you're built within this framework of what was available at the time, right? Then you fast forward a decade, and well, there's a whole bunch of new options available. So GG now is cutting edge because their foundation, their platform is so much more advanced in terms of where their starting point was, right? I thought, like Stars was very, very good, but then ultimately, like, when you want to change the structure and the fundamental foundation of, all the working parts, it's difficult to do when it's integrated based off of like, kind of what you're saying is like 10-year-old software that you either have to just go scrap it, start all over, because you can't really stay on the level of what's available today. That's why GG Poker, I think, has done so well, predominantly because people really enjoy playing on the software.
Yeah, the other thing I think we got to thank Full Tilt for is Rail Heaven. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They were cutting edge with making online poker a sort of a spectator sport.
That's why I made my first deposit, is so I could chat in the Rail Heaven. I didn't even deposit to play poker. I just I wanted, and then from chatting in those like the Rail Heaven things, that sometimes the pros would give you money. I remember Brad Booth.
I was just going to say, did you ever beg me for money, Ross?
Not you, no, but Brad Booth would do cool stuff like ask trivia and then like send money to the winners. I thought that was like the best thing ever. But yeah, no, Rail Heaven was like, I still sometimes YouTube it just to watch the games. It was so crazy.
Yeah. Isildur and
begging was off the charts. You could not play a high stakes game on Full Tilt without somebody begging you for money.
Yeah, I don't know. On your end, could you turn off the
yeah, you can turn off rail chat, but yeah, it's still, I think it would still show up as like a star or something.
Yeah.
Ross, I know we got a bunch. We've run long, and we're not going to do any tweets or anything like that. But I know we have some voicemails. Is there one really good one you want to hit?
I previewed one the other week. It's another young listener. I thought it'd be fun to play, so we'll do that.
Yeah, let's do it for the kids.
Okay.
Email number 1. Hey, that Poker Podcast. Steve from Houston, Texas again. A couple of weeks ago, it was actually about a month ago, I asked y'all what you should believe, or what y'all believe I should be studying as a, wannabe pro, I guess. Appreciate y'all's feedback on that. Y'all were wondering my age. I'm 16. And I had a question. I have around $3,000 in the savings account, and I'm looking to, grow that into a larger amount, just over a long-term period of time. And I've done a lot of research, but I would really like y'all's input on what a 16-year-old kid. I have a job where 25 hours a week, minimum wage, waiter, Terrence restaurant, Texas Beer Garden, Missouri City, Texas. Anybody wants to come down? 31 beers on tap. It's delicious. I wouldn't know. But yeah, anyways, what financial advice, or maybe what should I be investing in right now? $3,000, willing to invest all of it. I don't really, want it. I don't have material wants. I just want to grow that money into more money. I've been looking a lot at Bitcoin. I don't want to know what y'all's opinion is about this, but I'm willing to let my Bitcoin sit for 5, 10, 15 years, and just kind of treat it as a savings account per se. A lot of people say that has a higher interest rate. And then just putting it in some, shitty like TeamShares account, which is what I'm doing right now. It's just, So should I go the Bitcoin route? What do y'all say? Is cryptocurrency the way, or you guys got anything else for me? All right, appreciate it. Love y'all's podcast. Peace.
First of all, I want to say that is a well-spoken 16-year-old.
I know.
That blew me away.
35.
Yeah, I would never guess. I would bet way over 16. If he is indeed 16, he has 30. That kind of reminds me of the Haralabos story, right? I mean, Haralabos obviously he was older, but he was a sky captain in the Winnipeg airport, and he'd saved up $60,000, and he took, or some amount of money like that, and he took it all and he put it on the Los Angeles Lakers at 8-1 to win the championship when Shaq got traded from the Magic to the Lakers when the Kobe Shaq thing got.
So that's your advice to this kid? Just bet it all on fucking the Lakers.
In Houston, I bet it on the Dallas Stars. But no, I think it's one of those things where you look at it and go, okay, you're young. If you lose this money, you're going to have all kinds of earning years in your future. If this is something that you can, this is a time in your life to take chances. And one of those chances that is obviously a lot of people are taking is Bitcoin. And I'd be hard pressed to say don't put it in Bitcoin. I mean, yeah, it's volatile and all that, but I'm a bit of a believer. So obviously, don't take my advice. I'm far from a professional or an expert in Bitcoin, but that doesn't seem like a bad thing for me to suggest you put it in. Given Terrence, you got some Bitcoin too, right? You both have.
I got some Bitcoin, and I just think it's like, I mean, don't go all in on Bitcoin. I don't think. I mean, there are some people who are all in. I know people who have 99% of their net worth in Bitcoin, so they're literally like $1 million swings every day. It's just like wild. Like, I wouldn't recommend that. It's also not just because like you don't know about the volatility of the asset. It's almost because like it's almost just so swingy that like when are you going to cash out? If Bitcoin's $100,000 tomorrow, are you going to cash out? Like, are you going to cash out some? If it's 200,000 tomorrow, like you get addicted to this high of just like being like I'm richer every day, and I think that's a dangerous place for a 16-year-old to be. Now, I'm definitely not going to be like the old guy who's just like, oh, you should put it in index funds and, just grind out that return. Because I think, as Adam pointed out, an important thing, if you're 16, it's not important if you go broke. If you're, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you try very hard not to go to zero, right? Like, unless, you're Bill Perkins and you're trying to die with zero, but you're trying to die with zero, not die, get zero before you die. So yeah, I mean, riskier things are valuable. Invest in yourself, I mean, I think is the most important thing. Like this is a kid, I didn't catch his name, Houston, we'll just call him Houston. He obviously has a lot of hustle. He obviously has a lot of grind. He's an intelligent, thoughtful guy, as you said. I mean, I get the feeling, and I've only known this kid for 2 minutes on a voicemail, he's probably going to be successful in whatever he does. But just, find a way to invest in yourself, and that for some people, that means, formal education. For some people, that can be trades or starting your own business or just finding your hustle. I don't think want to be in a legal position where we want to encourage a 16-year-old to play a lot of poker, but I mean, whatever, fuck it. Like, I mean, if poker is something that you really love to do, study that hard. But I think when you're 16, the most important thing is to build the assets that are in here. And for those listening to the audio, that's your brain. Like, I mean, build up skills, figure out what your hustle is. And you don't necessarily know what it's going to be, but find that, when you invest in yourself, you figure it out. I mean, when I was 18, 19, like I really got excited about poker, and I started being on Poker 24/7 and posting our RGP. And that's how I got to know Isai Scheinberg, and Isai gave me my first big break and working for the company. And then after that, I was grinding online, and Moneymaker happened, and online poker was the best thing. And I took my shot there, but it all came because from a place where when I was 18, I went all in on poker, and I really loved it. And I really wanted to do it. So I think the advice at this point is just to invest in yourself. I mean, definitely put some money into crypto, put some money into stocks, invest your money. Don't just let it sit there. But be comfortable with the fact that you can lose it all. I mean, that's really the most important thing. If you're $3,000 is not a lot of money, and 16 years old is probably a fine time to lose it all, but just be mentally prepared that you might lose it all.
Yeah. I want to start by echoing completely, basically, literally everything Terrence said. But most importantly, the fact that, like, listening to this kid, like, I already know you're going to be successful because you're even asking these questions in the first place, where most 16-year-olds are not even thinking this long term. So you're like one step ahead of the game. And today there are so many opportunities to make money despite what we're dealing with as a country, as a society, that I honestly in this case, I would typically say, like, follow the nerds for the most part, right? Like, I was lucky enough to follow the nerds with Bitcoin. I'm like, all the nerds I know who are super frugal and financially, they're all talking about Bitcoin. Let me buy a bunch of these freaking Bitcoin things. I don't know shit about Bitcoin. I don't know how to get my Bitcoin. I don't know how to transfer my Bitcoin. I don't know nothing about it, but I got them. I got Bitcoin, At your age, 16 years old, you got $3,000, right? You're probably going to lose it all at some point. You're at least once. You're only 16. If you have the mentality that I think you do, which is you want to get there, right? You're not satisfied with having $3,000. You want to get there. Most people who become successful and have big dreams or big goals of having like a big financial nest egg, they take risks that are probably inadvised, probably too much, and probably overextend and probably go broke. But as Terrence said, if you live with your family, there's no better time really than now. Like, I did the same kind of thing. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm not saying that you should make the same kind of mistakes, because the younger generation, I had this argument with my chef Joel, actually, because I was like, kids today are so much smarter than people my age when we were 20. Like, kids who bailed a poker bankroll, I'm like, back in my day, I'm like, well, you're going to lose that 20 times. Not today. People know how to invest. They know how to get on Dogecoin and this coin and that coin. So educating yourself on that stuff and thinking long-term is like the way to go. Because I believe, and I don't know, but it sounds like from everyone that I know that's smart, is like Bitcoin will continue to rise, but you got to be willing to do this. Not looking at it every day and go, I had $3,000. Now I have 2,400. Now I have 3,200. Now I have it. And just be like, it's there. Sit on it. Don't even bother with it. Years later, hopefully it goes up. Because when I bought my biggest chunky Bitcoin, it was 16,000. Okay. And I was like, oh, fuck, maybe I'm too late. Because it was like boom, boom, boom going up, right? Went from 16,000 after I bought a decent chunk, and it's like tanked all the way down to 3,500. So I'm like, well, that was stupid. But I bought more at 3,500. I got paid by some people in Bitcoin at 6,000 or whatever, and long term, my I don't live and die by what the number looks like. And especially at your age, like, you don't necessarily want to do that. And I would actually say that at your age, it's fine to take some like shots, if you will, as long as you're emotionally and mentally stable enough to handle the swings. Like, just know that when you take these shots, as Terrence said, if you're not taking conservative investments, you are probably going to lose that $3,000. But when you do hit, it could be significant. Anyway, bottom line is this: trust yourself, bet on yourself, as Terrence said. And I think this kid's going to be just fine because of the fact that you're already thinking about this at 16. So you're going to know, like, in 4 years from now, I'm going to come to you and ask for financial advice, because you're going to know 10 times more about AMC and this freaking Blockbuster and this and that and who to bet on. I don't know. I'm always behind the page, but you stay in front of it and I'll come to you. You'll be my new financial advisor.
I just like to say that Germany is plus 717 in the 4x7.5.
That's your lock of the week.
Yeah, that's
you like Germany at plus 717 in the Rally Nove Mesto.
Nice.
I paid Daniel. I think I had a debt to you, and Daniel, I paid you in Bitcoin. And damn, I also bought into the GG Poker World Series main event in Bitcoin. I didn't realize I was playing a 50K.
Yeah. I play in a private poker game on a private app where there's a tournament every Saturday and I win it. I win or come second or third every time. Like I'm crushing this tournament with all the Bobby's Room guys. And the cool thing about this is everyone pays and collects in Bitcoin, right? But I win the tournament on Saturday. They go based on the price of Bitcoin on Monday at 6 a.m. What that works, right? So after I do good in the tournament, like I have a 2-day route for Bitcoin to go way down. Right? Because then I get way more Bitcoins. And then hopefully, it goes back up to that. So it's kind of fun. It's actually, once I've learned how to use it, as a currency, which I think it's ideally, suited for in the long term, it actually makes things a lot easier on all of us. The idea of like having a $20 bill and an $8 bill in your $8 bill. What is $8 bill? You know what I mean? Having actual like dirty paper in your hands seems like 20 years from now, it just won't even be a thing.
Just don't lose your password.
Do not do that. Yeah.
Password? What password? Right. I never got a password. Wait a minute. You telling me I lost it all? I don't have a password?
Oh, no. It's did you forget your password? No, there's a guy.
It's T-Chan 2020, but I probably shouldn't tell people that.
There's a guy out there. I think I read the article like a month and a half ago. He was like, he has $20 million on his Bitcoin wallet, but he can't remember the password. And it's the kind of wallet where if you get the password wrong 10 times, it just wipes itself.
Where does he have it on? What password? What is this? What is he on Coinbase?
Like a Trezor, it's a
Trezor doesn't require a password.
It's not a Trezor, but it's one of the ones that requires it. Well, a Trezor requires it can use a passphrase and it can also use a PIN, right?
No, but it also can use something else.
It can also use the recovery seed.
The recovery seed is all that matters because here's the thing. Here's what's important.
Know that either.
Hold on. With Bitcoin is super dangerous as much as it is cool. Like I know of a guy who was cashing out on an online poker site, 100K, Justin Young. He cashed out 100K. He went to click on something. A pop-up came up. He clicked on that, all gone and not retraceable. There's a recovery seed, which you talk about, which is essentially just a bunch of words, right? Here's the thing. If people find that group of words and create a Trezor, they can steal all of your Bitcoin and you have no recourse. You have no regulation. So it's kind of like the Wild West. It's like gold in that regard, but there's no police that can help you. So as much as, it is the wave of the future, you feel like at some point there's got to be some security measures at some point. But then again, if you have security measures, now you have government control, which is an antithesis to the entire idea behind crypto.
All right, guys, we went super long this week, but had lots to talk about, and we got to most of it. So that was great. Thanks to you guys for getting together, and thanks to you out there for tuning in. Appreciate it each week, and we will talk to you soon.